What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today let's get started with Alex Pereira gets called out in an interview. In the wake of his stunning UFC 300 win over Jamahal Hill, Alex Pereira has been linked to fights with Makhachev Ankalaev and Yuri Prochazka. Despite that, longtime light heavyweight veteran Anthony Lionheart Smith recently threw his name into the hat, indicating on a recent episode of Submission Radio that if he can string together some wins, he doesn't see why a bout between himself and Pereira doesn't come to fruition, given the past tension between the pair stemming from Smith's past criticisms of Pereira.
You know, and him and I have had our words back and forth. I don't think that there's any real beef there, but there's definitely something there with him and I where, given the opportunity, we both would jump on it. Like if I can put myself into a position where oh, holy, here we're on a little bit of a streak and things are going well, the timing works out, I think both of us would jump on that opportunity. I'm one of the few guys probably that would really, I would step in the fire with him, and he knows that.
With the two fighters at very different points in their respective careers, the MMA community was quick to weigh in, with one fan writing, "Anthony Smith is the real reason Ngannou ran from the UFC, but y'all ain't ready for that conversation." Another added, "Buddy is trying to collect as many checks as he can before he's out." Another echoed a similar sentiment, writing, "Someone please take his mic away." One member of the MMA community also added, "Bro got a black belt in yapping. You would think his record is 29-0 and not 37-19 from the way he talks." Before a bout against Pereira can come to fruition, first, Smith must get through Vitor Petrino at UFC 301 on May 5th, which will see Lionheart look to bounce back from a December loss to Khalil Roundtree Jr. Next up, let's take a look at Arman Tsarukyan goes off on Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev had some things to say about Arman Tsarukyan turning down a fight at UFC 302 in the wake of his win over Charles Oliveira. Following the decision win, the UFC reportedly offered Tsarukyan a fight with Makhachev, which he turned down, citing the short turnaround being less than ideal. In response, Makhachev reacted to the news while speaking in an interview with the New York Post Sports.
"I'm not surprised because this guy talked about rematch all his life, but I don't remember this. Maybe third time or fourth time the UFC give him chance to fight with me, and he say no. It's not surprise. I know after the UFC told me we give you opponent after UFC 300, but in my opinion, I know if Arman beat Oliveira, he never took this fight, never take this fight, and that's why I'm not surprised."
Tsarukyan then fired back at Makhachev on social media, saying that he believes the champ is looking for an advantage heading into their rematch, writing, "That's just not the truth. The truth is that you want to fight me on short notice to have an extra advantage. It won't happen again though. When was the last time you fought 2 times in 6 weeks?" If Makhachev emerges from his upcoming fight with Dustin Poirier, the expectation is that himself and Tsarukyan will finally throw down in their long-awaited rematch later this year. Next up, let's take a look at Chito Vera exposes UFC fighter. In the wake of his UFC 299 loss to Sugar Sean O'Malley, there has been quite a bit of talk surrounding a potential fight between Chito Vera and Peter Yan. With Vera eager to return to title contention, and Yan looking to build on his recent win over Song Yadong, a fight between the two seems to make sense. During a recent episode of the Keep Hammering Collective podcast, Vera indicated that in an ideal world, he would like to return to action to fight Peter Yan at Madison Square Garden later this year. Despite that, he also explained that in the past, Yan had declined to fight him not once, but twice, and the reason he wound up fighting Dominic Cruz was because Yan turned down a fight.
So no, the UFC let you know, it's like, hey, he don't want it. Mm-hmm. What else will you want? Or we have this other option. Because when I fought Cruz, the original fight was me and Jan in Boston.
Oh.
Because he declined, they called Cruz and they make it in San Diego so it can be bigger for both of us.
I see.
So I said yes to both guys.
As Yan said in a recent interview, after undergoing surgery, he plans to return at the end of 2024, with his sights set on a long-awaited bout between himself and Vera. Given that, a bout between the two may finally be on the horizon. Next, let's take a look at MMA community roasts Belal Muhammad for tweet. While the UFC has yet to confirm that Belal Muhammad is in fact next in line for a crack at the welterweight title, the streaking contender is confident that if a bout between the two does get finalized, he will emerge victorious. In a recent post on social media responding to a fan, Muhammad laid out his game plan for the fight, writing, "4th round, I take him down and start getting him into submissions to the point of him tapping, but then I let him go until I hear his coach scream the magic words from the corner. Then at that point, I lick my lips and I'll point to the ground like Max Holloway, and Leon will look at me in fear, then I'll shoot takedown and win 50-42 on all 3 judges' scorecards." In a separate post, Muhammad also reacted to Edwards' coach indicating that a bout between the two is 99.9% done for this summer in Manchester, writing, 99.9% chance of bullying him, son. Fans were quick to react to Muhammad's prediction, with one writing, "Can't even win by finish in his daydream, shake my head." If it played out like this at 4:30 a.m. local time in Manchester, a riot may break out. One fan joked about Muhammad's prediction, writing, "Bro wrote a fanfic and had to go to decision." Another joked about Muhammad's boxing, adding, "Stopped reading after piecing him up with my boxing." Another fan took the prediction 100% serious, writing, "So even in your perfect scenario you couldn't finish anyone. Absolute bum." One member of the MMA community linked Muhammad's prediction to Dana White's seemingly unwillingness to give the streaky contender a title shot, writing, "Makes sense why Dana is not giving you the title shot, you planning a decision." Another fan suggested the UFC may want to trade Muhammad like they did Demetrius Johnson, writing, "Wait, so Belal's dream, if everything goes right, is a decision? Never give Belal that fight, UFC. Blast list that man or trade him like you did DJ. You need better vision, brother. Good grief, this is why you don't have the fight." With the reports of the start time for the card, one fan wrote, "Last thing anyone will want at 5:30 a.m. is another decision. End this early, Leon Edwards." Given that a deal is reportedly nearly finalized according to Edwards' team, it will be interesting to see whether a bout comes to fruition this summer. Now let's shift gears and take a look at Sean O'Malley vs Ilia Topuria not happening. Although there has been talk of a potential super fight between Ilia Topuria and Sugar Sean O'Malley, with O'Malley expected to fight Merab Dvalishvili and Topuria expected to fight Max Holloway, a bout between the two seems incredibly unlikely in the months to come. The way Topuria sees things, the bout may never come to fruition because O'Malley won't make it past Merab Dvalishvili. During a recent episode of the MMA Hour, he opened up on the situation, saying that although he believes O'Malley loses to Merab, if the bantamweight champ makes it through the fight, then he's open to a clash of champions.
Yeah, he's fighting my friend Merab, and I truly believe that Merab's gonna walk his, but I don't know. If he does it, I will be waiting for him. Then he really deserves the shot. If he dominates his weight class, you have to give him the chance to move up to the next weight division. But right now it doesn't make any sense, because he has a guy who is a number one contender. He really deserves the shot, who is Merab, and I truly believe that he gonna beat him.
While a bout between O'Malley and Dvalishvili is yet to be finalized, the expectation is that the pair will collide later this year. As the bantamweight champ said, he wants to fight as soon as possible. However, there's been no word on what event the fight might take place at. Next, let's take a look at Jon Jones back training after injury. UFC heavyweight champ Jon Jones is back in the gym training for the first time since a pectoral injury forced him out of his scheduled UFC 295 fight with Stipe Miocic. While he recently held some seminars, giving fans hope that his return could be on the horizon, the champ had yet to return to Jackson's MMA for regular training. In a post on Instagram, Jones shared a photo of himself, Coach Jackson, and his teammates, along with a caption that read, "First day back in the gym since my injury. Felt amazing, and so it began." While Jones is just now returning to his normal training, since his injury, UFC CEO Dana White has continued to make it clear that when the champ returns to the octagon, he will face off with Stipe Miocic. Although there's been no word as to when that fight could potentially take place, the hope seems to be that the two will have the chance to settle things before the end of the year in order to bring some clarity to the heavyweight division. With questions about whether or not Jones and Miocic would both retire, the division seems to be hanging in limbo. Although Tom Aspinall has continued to hold out hope that he'll have the chance to unify his belt against the winner of the fight, nothing seems to be certain. Next, let's take a look at Jamahal Hill gets warned for fight at UFC 303. Despite being knocked out by Alex Pereira in the first round of their UFC 300 fight, Jamahal Hill has already signed a bout agreement that will see him return to action against Khalil Roundtree at UFC 303 in June. While many fighters, such as Justin Gaethje, who was also knocked out at UFC 300, like to take some time off after being on the wrong end of a stoppage loss, Hill has decided that he wants to return to action sooner rather than later. During a recent episode of his and Big John McCarthy's Weighing In podcast, the Punk warned Sweet Dreams against rushing his return.
I think it is a little bit too soon for him to come back, only based on, I know he got rocked, I know he got dropped. I mean, his eyes rolled back and got that gloss looked over his face as he hit the ground. He took another shot after that.
Yep.
I would like to see him take more time. Look, how old is Jamahal Hill? 32.
32.
That 33, 34 is kind of the tipping point of like, look, I have this in me. Let's keep it going. You start thinking, okay, it's not going to last forever. But I also think you don't want to rush it too soon and shorten your career even more.
With Sweet Dreams set to fight a vicious striker in Khalil Roundtree, the bout seems guaranteed to produce fireworks. The big question, of course, is whether or not Hill will be recovered in time for the bout to deliver the level of action fans are hoping for. The MMA community goes off on Dana White for UFC 301. Fans are roasting Dana in the UFC after the lineup for the 301 card was confirmed, with Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg as the main event, and Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo as the co-main event. Here's what the MMA community had to say. UFC 301 is a dreadful pay-per-view. A promised fringe contender rushed into a title shot with zero story, a retired legend returning after a 2-year layoff, and that's it. Dog shit. It's almost as putting the top Brazilian stars for 300 severely hurt this one. Upcoming pay-per-views are not the most inspiring, to be honest. Makhachev vs Poirier is a bit better. McGregor vs Chandler seems like another classic McGregor pay-per-view card. I won't even be streaming this trash. First numbered card I'll have skipped in years. Low-key worst pay-per-view ever. Worst pay-per-view of all time besides Nunes' retirement last year. A card made for illegal streaming sites. What do you think about UFC 301? Let us know in the comments below. Here are our top comments from last video. Does anyone else realize that Ian Gary was called out by MVP and he completely ignored it and ducked the opportunity? Arman's response to Chandler was brilliant. I love how Colby explains why he should risk his ranking for Ian Gary, but wants to defend his ranking against a 40-year-old wonder boy. Yeah, that is a true fighter right there. I beat that guy off once. Is he about some dog?